Welcome to the channel Zilalowa of Dr. Yaluka. To begin, please subscribe and tick the notification bell in order not to miss our videos. Thank you for joining. Hi everybody. Thank you for joining us. This lecture is a repetition of the French one which was given last Sunday. We will be giving a lecture in English every first Sunday of the month. So our next rendezvous is the first Sunday of March. I'm Dr. Katezolu Banzadiruyaluka. I hold a PhD honor in theology from Trinity Graduate School of Apologetic and Theology in Kerala in India. As an apologist, I specialize in the defense of the African traditional spirituality and epistemology. In this vein, I published about 50 papers and books, 15 books, and the remaining are papers published around the world. And I created Zilalowa, which is a modern academy of African traditional spirituality. Zilalowa comprises two branches: an academic branch called Institut des Sciences Animiques. In this branch, we make researches, and it is for the frame of this branch that I have published scientific papers and 15 books that are available at Amazon. Zilalowa comprises also an initiatory branch. That initiatory branch is called also Zilalowa. We initiate people to the practice of the divine, African divine science, because African traditional religion in its highest trend is in reality an exact science. We are going to prove this in this lecture. In every one of my lectures, I will be handling this aspect of our religion as an exact science, because it is fundamental for the new impetus we are printing to this religion. So Zilalowa comprises the Institut des Sciences Animiques and the initiatory branch, which is also Zilalowa, in which we teach the divine practice of African traditional religion according to Congo. The Congo religion has the continuity of the religion of ancient Egypt, of Kemite. So as such, we are a Kemitic movement. We are Kemite. But there is a difference between us and the mainstream Kemites. So we call ourselves Neokemite. What is the difference between both? The Kemite movement started in the years 1970s. It used induction and speculation in order to reread the texts of ancient Egypt and re-emerge the African people in that spiritual tradition. And generally, the Kemite movement is against the Bible and against the personality of Jesus. We don't agree with all those positions. The Neokemite movement started in the year 2008. It started with the discovery of the Kemite cosmological argument. These arguments enable one to state all the essential doctrine of a salvational religion. And we will prove that those doctrines correspond exactly to the religion of ancient Egypt, to the Bantu religion, especially the Congo religion. So the Neokemite movements rely on deduction rather than induction. We rely on deduction, and since the Kemite cosmological argument is a deduction from true premises, the Kemite cosmological argument is an exact science. So that it is the only systematic natural theology we have in the world. It is the first time someone has stated the main doctrine of a salvational religion just through deduction. And because it is a science, an exact science, we don't reject the principle of this science, whether they may be found in the Bible or in other books. We don't agree with the history found in the Bible, in the culture. It's not our culture. But the principles which are there are ours, were taken from our ancestors. Simon Kimbangu, the great Congo prophet, said, read the Bible because the principles which are there belongs to your ancestor. And the late Kalala Omotunde used to stress the same. He used to say that the white people plundered the library of Alexandria after copying the truths that were in the library. They did burn the library in order to hide the truth, not knowing that the same truth were underneath in the tombs. Today, thanks to the Kemite cosmological argument, we are uncovering this same truth. So we rely on deduction and comparative studies. The theme of our lecture of today is the illusory nature of evil. It may astound many people to hear that evil is an illusion. Remember, every morning we wake up and we see the sun go from east to west. But geography, science tells us, no, the sun is the central in mobility. It is the earth that goes around the sun from west to east. So science, here divine science, has an exact science, teaches us also that the real is the good, God. Evil is an illusion. A teacher was teaching a class, and the lesson he was imparting that day was the orange. So he asked the question to the class, what is the color of an orange? Students raised their hands. One said, it is green. Another said, it is yellow. And there were another one who said, it is orange. But there were a single student raising his hand, and he said, it is white. The teacher was astonished. He took an orange and showed him, and he said, you see, this one is not red, it is green. He took another and he said, you see, this one is red and it is yellow, and that one is orange. Do you understand? The student replied, "But it is white inside." Of course, he was right. Any orange is white inside. This means that we have to look deep inside the things before deciding. According to the black people, the Bantu people, they used to say that the human being we see, is just an appearance. The true human being is invisible. This concept is found also among the Yoruba of Nigeria. They insist on the fact that the visible is just an appearance. Reality belongs to the world of the invisible. If you go to Cameroon, there is nothing called the Bassa. The Bassa called the human being Mut. But what they call Mut, it is not the visible human being, but the invisible human being. The visible human being they call Mut Binam, which means the one who had legs and hands. So he is just an appearance of the true human being, the true Mut, who is invisible. So the visible is just an appearance. The visible is just an appearance of the invisible. But such a thought requires demonstration. And we are going to give you this demonstration thanks to what is called the cosmological argument. A cosmological argument is an argument that allows one to demonstrate the existence of God. That's how it is used in the Western culture. Unfortunately for the white people, they happen with that argument to prove the existence of a creator, but they cannot go beyond that point. So the cosmological argument in the West is always a failure. After we graduated, after we had our doctoral diploma, we launched ourselves in the same adventure of the demonstration of the existence of God through the cosmological argument. Ours was a different one because it enables us just not only to demonstrate the existence of the Most High God, but to prove the essential doctrine of a salvational religion, which is equivalent to the religion of our ancestors since the time of ancient Egypt. Our cosmological argument starts with two premises. The first is the existence of individuality. You are an individual being, I'm an individual being, so there are individualities in this universe, this temporal universe. The second premise is the law of causality, which requires of an effect an anterior and adequate cause. Now these two arguments are unbeatable. Let's just take the first argument. The first premise is the existence of individuality. You may not agree with me. You can say, "Oh, no, I don't agree with that." I'll say yes. If you don't agree, then you have a view which is different from me. And if you have a view which is different from me, then you are a different individual compared to me. So you prove that I'm right. There are individualities in the universe. So that premise is unbeatable. The second premise is the law of causality. You can say, but it doesn't account for the kinetic phenomenon. First of all, if you deny that law, then you deny all the other sciences. which no one can accept. And secondly, the Kemite cosmological argument reaches to the simplest explanation of the quantum phenomena, the quantum dilemma. It explains simply that the subatomic elements are true particles on undulatory trajectory. And that is the simplest answer to the quantum dilemma. So people cannot use the quantum physics in order to deny our premises. It doesn't work. How can I state briefly the Kemite cosmological argument? You are an individual being, I'm an individual being, we live in this temporal universe, so this universe has an individuality. And because it is an individual entity, it must be the work of an individual creator. The individual nature of this creator calls for the existence of other similar entities. So we have an infinite number of causal principles that are effective or potential, because they may not yet create their universe, but they exist in the infinity of possibilities. Now, here I take an hypothesis that I will demonstrate, whose truth I will demonstrate later. The hypothesis is that every creation exists in its creator. Now, let us take an entity that includes all the potential and effective creator. In accordance with our hypothesis that every creation exists in its creator, this entity must be the greatest possible being, because any universe you can imagine will exist in its creator, and that creator will exist in this entity. So this entity is God, the greatest possible being. Now, we can deduce from this three main attributes. First of all, God, as the greatest possible being, must be indivisible and immutable. If he were not, if he were divisible and immutable, then there must be a principle of his mutability and his divisibility. And that principle, according to the law of causality, must be greater than God. That is, greater than the greatest possible being, which is impossible. So God is absolutely indivisible and absolutely immutable. Now, God must be also transcendent. We know that God is above everything. Yes, but by the transcendence of God, we mean also that he doesn't know evil. Because under the doctrine of the indivisibility of God, to know and to be are the same and one thing for him. What God knows is what he is. If God knows evil, then he must be infinitely good and infinitely bad, which is impossible. So God is transcendent, means he is above everything and he doesn't know evil. Now, we have seen that each potential and effective cause expresses an individuality included in God. Now, God is indivisible. So this means that every child of God, we call the creator children of God. So every child of God expresses the fullness of God, but in an individual manner. And that fullness, it was what called in Kemite the Logos, or the Word. So the Word is the fullness of God manifested in each one of his child. So we have three celestial entities. We have the Most High God, we have the creators, among whom we have the creator of this temporal universe, and we have the Logos. Now, because each child of God expresses the fullness of God, he expresses all the glory of God. So he is a son, the manifestation of the full glory of the Father, Mother, God. I can, through this argument, state all the doctrines, but let's jump to the cosmological aspects. The question is one: where is this temporal universe seeing the Most High God, who is transcendent, immutable, and indivisible? Where is situated our temporal universe? We know that it is in the Creator, but the question is now in rapport vis-a-vis to the Most High. First of all, it cannot be outside of Him, because if it were, then the Creator added to God will result in an entity greater than God, which is impossible. The temporal world cannot be also in the Most High God. Otherwise, at the moment of creation, will appear in God. Something in God will go from nothingness to existence, and God will change, which is impossible because God is immutable, absolutely immutable. So creation is neither in God, neither outside of God. So you may bother. What does it mean? It is simple. Let us be in a hall. And in a hall, they say Mr. X has a car. But his car is neither outside the hall nor inside the hall. What is the answer? The answer is simple. The car is in his mind. So it means that creation is in the consciousness of the Creator, which is the proof of our hypothesis. This means also that the temporal is only an appearance, a manifestation of the spiritual, the invisible. The visible is only a mere appearance of the invisible. Reality is the invisible, the divine, and the temporal is just an appearance. So we have seen here some principles. The first principle is the existence of the Most High God. The second is the existence of creators, among whom we have the creator of this temporal universe. The third is the existence of the Logos. And the fourth principle we have seen is the fact that the temporal universe is only an appearance of the celestial universe. All reality is in God, and there is no reality outside of God. Does this go along with the Kemetic theology? My answer is yes. It is exactly what we see in the theology of Memphis. We have a Most High God who is called in the pyramid text the Soul Lord. The same is called in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the One Lord. You agree with me that Soul Lord and One Lord is the same expression. And we have the Creator who is called Atom or Atum. And we have Ptah. Now Ptah is the divinity working in the atom in order for him to create, which is the doctrine of the Logos. Remember, we said that the Logos is the fullness of God in each child of God. And the Egyptians used to teach that the soul is not in the body. And we know that the soul is the invisible reality of the human being. So they were teaching that what you see is just an appearance. Reality belongs to the world of the invisible. So you see, what I have stated briefly corresponds exactly to the theology of Memphis. I could go through all the essential doctrine, but that will be enough for this lecture. And this is exactly what is taught also by the Bantu people, and especially by the Congo people. They teach the existence of a Most High God, whom they call Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo. They teach also the existence of creators or Loas. In one of his prayers, Simon Kibangu called them those who are at east and at west. And then he calls one of them Mumba Loa, who is the creator of this temporal universe. So you have the Most High God, Sangapungu Tulendo, and you have the creator of this temporal universe, who is Mumba Loa, and you have the Logos, who is called Pinanza. And like all the Bantu people, the Congo people teach also that the visible is just an appearance. Reality belongs to the sphere of the invisible. Reality is spiritual. Reality is not material. It is very important to understand this, because the whole science of the black people, the whole technology of the black people is based on the fact that reality is spiritual, while the science of the white people is based on the non-demonstrable fact or belief that reality is material. Not a single scientist in the West can prove to you that reality is material. It is impossible to be proven. But we have proven that reality is spiritual. So the Kemite cosmological argument is very important for our science and our technology, which relies on the existence of the spirits. Let me give you here a testimony before going further in this lecture. I know a family who had a baby, and the baby was suffering of anemia. His blood was diminishing. So they went to the hospital and they made the first blood transfusion. But after some days, the blood diminished again. And they had a second transfusion. By that time, all the finances of the family went out. It was difficult for them. And for the third time, the anemia came back again. The baby had a relapse. By this time, they didn't have any money to go to the hospital again. But because they knew about spiritual healing, they said, let us have recourse to spiritual healing. So they went to a healer of Zilaloa, because in Zilaloa we have people who are trained in order to heal mentally, to heal through prayer. So they went to the spiritual healer. The spiritual healer told them, this baby is the image and likeness of God. Like God, he is perfect. He cannot be sick because blood in reality is not a red liquid flowing in the body. No, it is a spiritual idea. Blood is spiritual, blood is not material. And blood cannot diminish because it's a spiritual quality. So he was not praying in order to heal a sickness. He was praying in order to awaken the parents to the reality that God is truth, God is good, and God is the only reality, and evil is an illusion, a suggestion coming to earth to have acceptance. And that suggestion has to be denied. Through this prayer, the baby was healed on spot. His black color came back. And the pale skin had gone away. The color of the skin came to its normal nature. He was completely healed. And he never had a relapse. God is good. And God is the only reality. So evil cannot be real. Because according to the Kemite cosmological argument, if evil were real, its reality added to God will result in a reality greater than God, which is impossible because God is the greatest possible being. So it cannot be in God. Evil cannot be real. If evil were real, then it will be part of God. And we have seen that if evil is part of God, due to his indivisible nature, God will be infinitely good and infinitely bad, which is also impossible. So evil is neither in God, neither outside of God, neither real. Evil is just a suggestion. Whatever be its nature, whatever be its duration, evil is a suggestion coming to you in order for you to give its reality. We give reality to evil through our skepticism, our doubt, and through our fear. Fear is not a heart throbbing. Fear is the belief that evil has a power. Fear is the belief that we are alone. While in reality, you are always surrounded by holy ancestors. The invisible reality is always there, caring for us. And all power belongs to God. So this true truth, you can vanquish evil because all power belongs to God. It is very important for us to understand this truth because we have said that our ancestors, by understanding the unreality of evil, the apparent nature of the visible, they arrive to a technology which is more efficient environmental friendly, and very cheap. And that technology is based on the fact that reality is spiritual. Something we can prove today thanks to the Kemite cosmological argument. So this argument is very important for us, for the defense of our epistemology, our science, our technology. It is also important for us to bring back the dimension of exact science to all the trends of African traditional religion. Because science is universal, by bringing back that dimension, will help uniting African culture, African cultures. So, remember, the religion bequeathed by our ancestors is an exact science. This is a probable fact thanks to the chemical cosmological arguments. And this religion teaches that God is the only reality. Evil, whatever be its nature, whatever be its duration, is never real. It is an illusion. I thank you so much for having joined this lecture. Remember, our next lecture will be the first Sunday of March. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share. More on this subject can be found on my books available at Amazon.